Bob at I Like to Make Stuff. Today we're going to make a Christmas tree that's also a video game. It's Christmas time, and that means it's time to decorate our house. Now, we love to decorate for Christmas, but a lot of things at Christmas time are just pretty to look at. You don't really use them. So this year, we're going to make a really cool decoration for the front yard that you can play with. In the past, I've done some big things for the front yard. One time I made some giant lightsabers. One time I made a Death Star decoration that went on our roof. And this year, we're going to make a giant Christmas tree video game. Now first, let's go talk about the technology that's going to run this. Here's the plan. We're going to make a Christmas tree, and each one of these lines represents a string of LEDs. Now these are RGB LEDs, and we can address and set the color of each light on each string. Now essentially this is a grid. We're just pinching the top of it down. But if you think about a grid of lights, we can build any kind of video game we want on that grid. Here's how the game's going to work. We're essentially going to drop snowflakes from the top, and then you are controlling a pixel on the bottom row, and you're going to try to avoid those snowflakes. We're going to do that with light. So if we light up a light here, on the next tick, it's going to move down. It's going to move down and keep falling down. And the only controls you have are a left and a right button to move yourself back and forth along the bottom row. As these fall down, they'll start to accumulate. You'll get more and more snow falling, and you just have to avoid it as long as you can. And then anytime you're not playing the game, we can run whatever animation we want on all these different lights and make it look like a normal decoration that's in the front yard. Here are the components that I've got so far, and this is really just kind of a mock-up to make sure that I could get it to work and to write the code. I'm using an Arduino Mega, which is probably overkill in this case, but I had one, so that's what I'm using. I've got two little buttons for the left and the right buttons, and then currently 4 strings of 50 LEDs. These buttons are just for testing. Obviously, we won't use these in the final thing. These will get replaced. The Arduino will get put in some sort of a watertight container, but I wanted to point out these LEDs are actually already waterproof. These are made to work outside in all sorts of different conditions, so these will be just fine. Now I've got it running just so you can kind of see what it's going to look like, and it's very short right now. It's going to be a lot longer, but I wanted to point out that this is only a couple of days worth of code. It's really simple, and it's going to be on my GitHub if you want to take the code and use it for yourself. Now once I press a button, the screensaver is going to go away and snow will start falling from the top, and you'll see the red one down on the bottom is the one that I can control. It's very short, so I lost really quickly, but once we have the full length, it should be a lot easier to play. I'm going to have a full code walkthrough of this on our second channel in case you want to see all of the code and get an explanation of how it works, and the code is freely available on our GitHub. But I wanted to show you one thing. I'm using a library called Fast LED to handle the LED colors, and making the screensaver is actually as simple as switching between red and green. I'm just looping through all of the lights and telling them what color to be, and that's kind of our screensaver, and I've got it running down here in case you want to take a look. Also, I just wanted to say that if you don't have any experience programming, using an Arduino is a great way to get started. The simplest project you can do is to press a button and have an LED turn on and off, and that's essentially what we're doing here. We've just got a whole bunch of them. I showed you the screensaver because that's a good example of turning on and setting the color of an entire string of lights at one time, but we're actually going to scale it down and work on individual lights. Imagine this grid as our game board. That would make each column a string of lights and each box an individual light. Each one of these boxes has a numeric value. So if we put a light here, that is 2 over and 1 down. Now the game runs in a loop, and so each tick of that loop is going to move each one of these pieces down 1 space, changing its value. The player also has a numeric value, but it's only on the bottom row. And then you have the 2 buttons, and the buttons only control moving it left and right along this bottom row. So each tick of the game, we just check the position of the player against all of the pieces of falling snow, and if they occupy the same place, you lose. Those are the basics of how the game works. If you want more detail, be sure to go look at the code and the code walkthrough. Now let's get to building the tree. We're going to mount each string in one of these PVC boards. We'll drill some holes and then put them in from the back side so that they're all evenly spaced and all facing the same directions. Now this PVC board is literally a PVC dimensional piece of material that you can cut down on a table saw. You can use it however you would use wood, but this stuff will not rot. And luckily, since it's white, we don't really need to even paint it. We're going to go for 9 strips of lights, which means we have 9 of these pieces of PVC. We're going to cut them down to length and then mark every 2 inches so we can drill a hole to put the light bulbs in. I've marked where the top hole is on each one of these pieces, and we're going to drill a hole there, and then Josh made up a jig on the drill press so we can slide it down 2 inches, drill another hole. Each one of these pieces has to have 50 holes in it. I'm really excited that this video is sponsored by KiwiCo. In our house, we've been getting Kiwi crates for our kids for a long time. A lot of people will ask me how to get your kids into making, into engineering and art, and honestly, these crates are a fantastic way to get started. They have crates for all different age groups, all different interests. In fact, in our house, we get 3 different crates between 4 different kids. Our kids always look forward to them and ask when the crates are coming in. Once they get the crate, they've got everything they need to do the project on the inside. They've got all the supplies, so you won't have to run out to the store. They've got a great instruction booklet, and usually some extra information around whatever subject is covered. My kids have learned a ton about LEDs, about light changing and switches, plus things like wooden catapults. Luckily, you still have time this holiday season to get a crate for a kid in your life, and you can get the first crate free by going to kiwico.com/makestuff. These crates are a fantastic thing for all sorts of kids, and it's one of the ways that we invest in our kids' curiosity and interest in learning. I highly recommend them, and I hope that you will go to kiwico.com/makestuff and check them out for a kid in your life. We've got most of the LEDs put in the holes on these pieces of PVC board, and we've got ping pong balls stuck on the top of them to act as diffusers. Now when these are lit up, they look super cool. We'll show you that in a little while. While we're finishing this up, the next thing to do is to start making a base to hold this entire contraption. So we're gonna make a big foot out of some melamine that's gonna act as the base for this whole thing, and then pour a whole bunch of concrete in a bucket so it'll stay in one place. For the base, I need to have a semicircle that has a 3-foot radius. So I've marked 3 feet from the outside edge. I've got a pencil on a string. I'm gonna make a really simple compass and then just draw out that shape. This piece of melamine is actually leftover from an old concrete form that a friend of mine made, and it's got some extra concrete on it. When I cut this outside edge, it got kind of nasty, but it doesn't matter because this is really just a base for everything else to go on, and we can hide this outside edge with a piece of ribbon. Now we actually had a change of plans. This was originally going to go in my front yard, but now we've got a chance to take it downtown in the small town that I live in and put it up publicly so other people can come play it. Now you can start to see how this thing's actually going to go together. The base will be on the bottom, obviously, but then those big long white strips with the lights are going to connect on the outside and all pinch up together at the top and be mounted on the top of a metal pole. That pole is going to be sitting down in this bucket right in the middle, and we're going to fill this up with concrete. But to make this easier to move, we're actually going to put in a piece of PVC and then fill the concrete around it. That way the metal pipe can drop in here and we can take it out to make it easier to pack up. Now to get this mounted on the top of the metal pipe, I need to figure out a way so that it can drop into the pipe so it's not permanently attached. It's just going to be easier to be able to take this whole thing apart when we're not using it. I found an old dowel that's a little bit bigger, but we can kind of shave it down to fit on the inside of the metal pipe. But first, I need to make a hole here so that I can attach it to the dowel, then I'll cut it off and shape it so it can fit into the pipe. Now obviously using the lathe would have made that even faster, but it just goes to show you that using a belt sander can get stuff done and make it fit pretty well. This thing's plenty secure for what it's going to do, so now we're going to go spray paint it white, just kind of hide its ugliness. Then we'll go ahead and attach all the light strips on the outside. I'm ready to start wiring together the different strings of lights, and at the end of each string it's got a connector with 3 wires. There's a power, a ground, and a data in the middle. Now I can link all of the powers together, all of the grounds together, and then run them to a power source, but the data on each one has to go down to a pin on the Arduino. So I'm making a little daisy chain so I can connect all the power ones together. And by daisy chain, I mean I've got a wire going to each one of these that just jump from one to the next. And then these pins are going to go inside these connectors and they'll plug right into the ends of the lights. We've got all the ping pong balls on all the lights. We've got everything wired up. So the last thing up here at the top is to connect all of these lines into this pedestal we made. I did want to point out that I actually miscounted. We changed from 9 to 7, so I've got extra holes, whatever. We're just going to use some zip ties to connect these all together. While I was in there working on that, Josh was making some awesome covers to hide all of the actual structure of this thing. He made some really simple plywood boxes that are going to end up being wrapped and look like presents. But I wanted to show you this simple lunch meat container is going to hold the Arduino. All the wires are going to go inside this, down from this pole, and this will keep everything watertight and just protect it a little bit. Then we'll cover this up with another one of these boxes. This will be at the base of the tree, and then the wires will come out and go over to this pedestal. This is where you'll actually play the game. You'll stand behind it and be able to look right at the tree. We're going to have two big arcade buttons here for left and right, but if you wanted to, you could put a joystick. I just thought it'd be cool to have the two buttons in case we ever wanted to use this pedestal for another quiz game or something like that. Now to make the pedestal, we've got some sheer material. We're going to wrap that around the outside of this so it's kind of see-through. And then we're going to drop some battery-powered Christmas lights down on the inside. You could obviously decorate this 1,000 different ways. This is going to be a pretty inexpensive way to do it and something we can take apart and change later when it's not Christmas. We've got the pedestal all ready to go. I got the buttons wired up, and then these wires have the button control as well as the LED power that goes on the inside of the button. This is all going to run into the Arduino as well as all the other wiring that we've already done. The last thing is to get this thing wired up completely, tweak the code just a little bit, and then we're going to take it downtown and set it up. All right, we've got the entire thing set up downtown. We've got it all working. It's good to go. Now we got to wait for the sun to go down and all the people to come out. This thing turned out to be a whole lot of fun. We had a great time with everybody down here playing it. I think they're going to be disappointed when we have to pack it up and take it home. I hope this gave you some ideas for some interactive thing that you can make for the holidays, and I hope you have a great holiday season from all of us here at I Like to Make Stuff. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Feel better?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it just slipped.
The world's worst fan.
All right, that's all basics. This shouldn't be hard. This is the easy thing. And you are controlling a pixel on long means hello.